Hello, everybody. This is SMA Watts, and oh, you know what? I forgot to do something. I'm supposed to have this popped out. You guys have a nice big image of a card. Oh, but hello, I'm SMA Watts, and we are going to be playing some Legacy Tribal War, Tribal Apocalypse, the player ran event on Saturdays. I believe sponsored by M2GO traders. But anyway, we're going to be playing regular Tribal because this is the second week of the month. So it means you can play there's no restrictions on deck design beyond the basic rules. So because I've been having a lot of success with mono white weenie strategies recently, I decided I'd go ahead and run humans. So this is what we're running. We got 26 creatures with a nice curve here. We have 11 one-drops with the all-star being, of course, Mother of Runes, because that ability is amazing. Tap target creature gains protection from a color of your choice. So sort of tap, save target creature from targeted spell. Target creature wins combat. She does a lot. She does a lot of work. The next, the number 2 is Champion of the Parish here. 1/1. Whenever a human enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on him. I have 26 humans, so odds are generally I'll draw 3 in my opening hand, sometimes 4. Can very quickly become very large. The other one spot was a little bit more debated by me. There's a couple of options. I ended up going with Soldier of the Pantheon because when he's good, he's really good. Like when your opponent is playing a lot of multicolored creatures, he becomes very powerful. But at his worst, like his high is really high, but his low is just Savannah Lion, and that's fine. I mean, Elite Vanguard is playable, and at his worst, he's Elite Vanguard. Imposing Sovereign. I debated a little bit about a couple different options here in the 2-drop spot. I ended up going with Imposing Sovereign. I wanted to, because I'm running 2 Mistress Factories, I didn't want to flood out on double whites. So I tried to stick to a little bit more single whites. And so the options were kind of the 2/1 Knight that gives Exalted. And he was a serious option because if you notice, I don't actually have any battalion in the deck, which I like. What one draft of the deck had some battalion had like a battalion theme going and a token theme going. But I ended up deciding, you know what, let's not worry about either of those. But even still, Imposing Sovereign just such a huge tempo advantage if you get him out early, because it puts your opponent's it slows your opponent's defensive speed down by an entire turn. Like against like wall decks that are trying to power out big Eldrazi and all of that. Even if they drop 3 walls on turn 3, if you had an Imposing Sovereign, you still get to swing through just fine the next turn, and hopefully try and set them up for maybe a kill with like a Johnny the next turn. So yeah, that's Imposing Sovereign. 3 out because it's not super good in multiples. Thalia. I'm not sure even running Thalia is right. Like there's a good chance this probably should be Gather the Townfolk. But I was like, okay, well Thalia is powerful against decks that are trying to be unfair. They're not trying to just get in there and scrap with creatures. Thalia is always good, but that's a little less likely in this format because you have to have 20 creatures in your deck. So she's only ever going to blank at most. Maybe 2 cards in your opponent's hand are going to get trapped. So she's a little bit weaker. That's why we're only running 2. But she's still a 2/1 first striker for 2. So her body by itself isn't that bad. And we're only running, 8, 12 spells. So, and our spells, most of them are very cheap. Like if we can cast Thalia, we can cast our removal with Thalia out, and the rest. So it's one of those. I'm a little on the fence about her, but she seems like she should be fine. She shouldn't hurt us too much, and she might randomly hurt our opponent. Loyal Cathar. Even though this is a format with swords to plowshares and swords, but Loyal Cathar just being able to recurse from lightning bolts or losing in combat, I think is what gets him the slot here over like a White Knight style creature, because I don't think protections from red or white. Red or black is noteworthy enough. I don't think it does enough to warrant uh, using him. I considered like Elite Inquisitor, but I think Loyal Cathar is better for it right now. I may be wrong, but all right, Mirran Crusader. Um, I would play him as just a 3 mana 2/2 double strike. But the fact that he has protection from 2 colors, and they're 2 relevant colors, is huge. He's our only 3 drop, which may be a little wrong. Like I might be running too much mana because I only have 4 3 drops in for creatures, and 2 4 drops, but I do have some expensive spells, and I'd rather be safe than sorry on the land count. If I play this deck again, there's a good chance this Plains might be gone. Anyways, next. Oh, then there's also Hero to Bladehold. Um, Hero of Bladehold gets in on the merit of she can win the game by herself very easily, very quickly. An opponent can be at 20, and she's a 3 turn clock. And you can't ask for more than like 7 power for 4 mana is gigantic. Alright, removal. We're running 4 Swords of Plowshares because probably the best removal spell ever printed. Like, ever. You can make some arguments for some other ones, but I'm pretty sure Swords is the best. Path to Exile because they don't let me play 5 swords. And I like having 5. I like having more than 4 removal spells, just because I feel a little more comfortable at actually drawing one if I have more than 4. But you don't necessarily need a lot of it. 3 Honor the Pure. I had to actually kind of squeeze these in because I realized I wanted a Crusade effect because I have a lot of 1 toughnesses, and without a Crusade effect, that potentially leads to being blown out by cards like Electrickery or even Pyroclasm, though Pyroclasm's still going to do a lot of work against this deck since it's running, 11, 14, 16 creatures with 1 toughness, and Loyal Cathar comes back as a 1 toughness. Actually, I'm sorry, Pyroclasm kills them. Just them, all of them. So at least a Honor the Pure takes these guys out of it. Hopefully Champ as well. So it also makes my creatures more of a threat. Close out games. Ajani. Even though we're humans, we're gonna call the Catman. He's you can't ask for a more on theme Planeswalker than Ajani. You could make an argument maybe for Elspeth being a little bit more, but I like both of them, but I feel in a creature heavy deck, Ajani wins out for his ability to jump a guy and give them double strike. I mean, potentially that can just wreck your opponent. Like a 3/3 champ, jumping in for 6 damage can be huge, and that's a very modest vision of it. Also, just dropping him and being like, every creature of mine is a threat because I'm going to grow a creature every turn. Huge. I kind of wanted a lifelinker in here, but I didn't find space for it. And then we have the 2 swords because I'm pretty sure that the swords are probably the most ubiquitous cards in the set, or in this format. And these are the 2 I have. Also the 2 I like the most. Like, generally I know a lot of players run Sword of War and Peace over one of them, but I'm not a big fan of Sword of War and Peace. Like, I know it's good, but it's good more on the protection, like its actual ability. You're usually only gaining 1 or 2 life. You're maybe doing 1 or 2 damage to your opponent. I prefer Sword of Fire and Ice to do 2 and give me a card, or Sword of Light and Shadow to give me 3 and give me a card. The fact that these are both card advantage engines is why I like them over the other swords. Because like we're not going to drop anything huge with Feast or Famine. We're not going to like milling our opponent out and get in a wolf while That's fine. The main draw of that is the fact that it gives you a win condition that doesn't rely on your opponent's life total, and it gives you and it powers itself. That's why it's good. That you can always just give the if it once it's hit, you can always hand the sword can be put into the teeth of the wolf, and it can go in and get another wolf and all that. That's why we're running these swords. Land count really simple. We have 17 planes because they cast white spells. See white mana right there. We have 2 Mishra's Factories because I don't have any Mutavaults. Not that this deck would benefit much from, because nothing here cares about humans on the battlefield. So it'd be very fringe that I would benefit from a Mutavault, like maybe against like Merfolk. The fact that if they have a Lord of Atlantis, a Mutavault becomes a 3/3 Island Walker is kind of nice. But I don't have Mutavaults. I sold mine because they're $30 and I only paid like 6 for them. And then we have 3 Karakas. I was tempted to only go 2, but I figure the odds of getting mana screwed because I drew multiple Karakases are reasonably low. And the decks that you want Karakas against, you really want Karakas against. Like, decks that are going to drop big legendary creatures and try and, screw you with them, you want Karakas. I mean, they're a little less likely to try and cheat an Eldrazi into play. Well, one of the big Eldrazi into play than try and cast them, which Karakas is less good if they're being cast like Ulamog just does just target it. But it can give you some breathing room at least. So that's what I'm playing today. It's definitely a first draft. Well, first non-rough draft, and it could use some work. But this is what I think this is fine. We'll see how it does. I might be incredibly wrong.